humanity. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose.
Welcome to In Bloom. I am your host, Michaela Richmond, and this is a pro-humanity podcast.
Welcome to the In Bloom podcast. Today I have on Rachel B. Lee. I'm very excited. She is the co-owner and CMO of Standout Authority, which is a company that builds brands that's focused on human connections online. And I love that. She also got her MBA from UT Austin, and she worked at both Microsoft and Gartner. So she has some great experience, and I'm very excited to welcome her onto the podcast today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So whenever I was doing some research, I heard that you went from corporate into entrepreneurship. Explain that whole experience.
Yeah. So, life is one big journey and transformational experience. For me, once I hit 30, it was like I always felt that I was kind of destined for something a little bit more than working for somebody else. I have been and continue to be on a transformational journey. And that's ultimately what personal branding is about, right? Growing up, just my whole life has been so much around. I grew up in LA. I always very much an ambitious woman, overachiever, all the things. Was in the business school at UW-Madison, University of Wisconsin-Madison. Worked at a marketing agency for a few years, bit ambitious self, wanted to pursue a master's degree. Nobody in my family really had gotten an MBA, although we're very educated. It was in that experience that I was like, okay, I want to go to corporate. That was my whole story getting in. I've been working on the agency side, working with Unilever and working with the corporations. And I was like, I want to be with the brands. I want to be calling the shots, not just the agency. And so it was such a, it took, all those years, all that effort, getting the MBA to create a path into corporate. Getting into corporate is not easy, especially a company like Microsoft, right? That's Fortune 20 company, right? Or whatever, wherever it's listed right now. And it was such an important piece of who I am today to be a part of a company's bigger mission, and to really understand how to take my skills and capabilities and work within other management styles, other leadership teams, and find ways to really shine and stand out. And I talk to a lot of people about that now, right, with our community. And there's so much to learn inside corporate, but I felt it I felt it in my tummy, it was like the knowing, as Glennon Doyle talks about in her book, Untamed, of just like, there's something a little bit more. There's a piece of me where I couldn't share my voice. I felt like while I was given many opportunities, I had some great managers. I had a lot of support on the corporate ladder, right? To create whatever I wanted to. I felt kind of constrained in terms of my creative energy and my voice. And through coaching and therapy and all of the things that I continue to do, I found the courage to leave that corporate job, leave corporate entirely, to pursue life as a female entrepreneur and business owner a little bit over a year ago. And it's not an easy journey. It's like whenever you make a big career shift, there's a lot of intention behind that. You don't really know where the journey is going to go, the path of entrepreneurship is one that is for the courageous, and one where there is intention and strategy behind it. And making that leap out of corporate was something that was very thoughtful. I didn't just make the leap, you know? And I just really encourage people to be thoughtful in wherever their career is going. Doesn't mean you have, you know, answers, but just having a plan helps.
So this is really, really interesting to me. I want to get into building a personal brand because I don't think that enough people understand why it's important. I know that I didn't for a long time. And then eventually I do want to get into Web3 because I know that you have some understanding of that and can share a little bit with the audience. But first I want to ask you about like entrepreneurship as not an easy journey and going into it with a plan. What is good enough of a plan to start entrepreneurship or like to take that leap?
Yeah, it's a great question. So just a little bit more of an understanding of my path to entrepreneurship. I have like a little bit easier step into it because my husband is my business partner and he founded Standout Authority. And so when I left my corporate job, it was kind of this opportunity to work together, be co-owners, me to lead as CMO and lead our marketing and content, and very much drive everything that we're creating. But I, you know, for a new entrepreneur startup, when you're getting your LLC, and there are some pieces, right, of really building that business that I have yet to do. So I'm lucky that I have Josh, right, who is a 20 plus year veteran entrepreneur. This is his 16th company. And in many ways, I was given a little shoe up, right, in ease in order, you know, able to sort of step into an opportunity. Now, that being said, whether you're completely founding a company or maybe you are partnering with somebody, right? Because there's a lot of ways that people can have an idea and bring it to life, right? Like ultimately, that's what entrepreneurship is about, is that you having an idea about something and you take the control of that wheel and say, I'm going to drive this new creation, this new idea. You know, for us, right? So I took that leap. I'm 34. I took it last year. I was 33. I have 2 stepchildren, right? I have a home. I'm not fresh out of college, right? Like we got bills to pay, we got kids to feed, which everyone has bills to pay. And when you have children, right, your blended family, there's other pieces. Josh and I had to be even more thoughtful, right? Because there's now two people in one business, one income. And so when I say planning, we knew that we wanted a certain level of sort of structure and money coming in that we felt like, okay, I leave, like we have enough money to be paying for health insurance, which is a lot. Health insurance is a lot when you work for yourself. When you have a family, that's like one of the big like one of the reasons why people don't leave, right? Their jobs is because of the cushion benefits that they get. And I like totally get it. I totally get that now because I'm like, man, I miss those benefits that corporate can provide for you. So, you know, I think the way I was always instructed and the way I always thought about that path into entrepreneurship is, let's say you have an idea about what you want to create and you're currently working at a company. Start to carve out 5-10 hours a week, however much you can, to bring that idea to life. Start chipping, if it's 2 hours every day. Like I would look at my schedule and I would take 2 hours and I'm sort of chipping away and doing stuff on the weekends, right? Can I start to get paid, right? Getting that first bit of payment where, okay, what is that amount that I need to live? Knowing what that number is in your head and start building that out, start getting that money in, start creating that time for yourself while you have a job. That is one of the best ways to do it, if that is the path that you're taking, if you have that opportunity. And when I looked at my calendar and there was more stuff I was doing with Standout Authority, and there's more opportunity, where I was like, okay, I think we're okay. I think we can do this and make it work, where we'll still be able to pay our bills, support the kids, have health insurance, like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own path, but for me and how we thought about planning and how I did it, that is how it worked, given where I was in my life. Again, other people might might just be that kind of freelance creative, right? Inherently,
Mm-hmm.
they're already a contractor, they didn't go to college, and they're already like hustling different pieces. That wasn't my experience. That's just, so I can't speak to exactly how to plan in that world, but I can speak to what I did and what I've experienced.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very helpful as well because like you hear of the anomalies, the, you know, the freelancers, the people that didn't go to college and made it on their own. And most people don't actually do that. So I think the fact that your story is different, I've heard a lot of stories that are very similar to yours. And I think that it's very um almost freeing.
Yeah, and I think because I know you want to talk about personal branding a little bit, and I think there's just a big point to make, right? Is the path into entrepreneurship and being your own boss, or just being a creator, even if you work for somebody else, means that you really understand who you are, your why, and what you want to leave on this planet, what you want to give. And doesn't mean you know all the answers, but the clarity around that and your gifts and your offering, right? And your why, that purpose and passion are such a critical piece of creating a career we love. Now, that career might be inside of a company, it might be entrepreneurship, it might be both, right? There's a lot of great companies that support people doing things on the side. Well, but the center of that, and really why we hustle, right? Why we might not make that much money, but we still do it, comes down to that feeling in the tummy, the knowing, the idea that this is my gift and this is my purpose, and this is how I know I can help and serve and leave the planet a little teensy bit better than when I came into it. And that is what personal branding is all about to me. So when you think about just branding, the whole reason behind it, right, is it's really the DNA of a company. It's that mission, it's the value, it's the product, the service, the why, the features, the benefits, the messaging. It's the connection to another soul, another human being, connecting, getting an emotional connection into that business brand. That's what branding is about. That idea is no different when we say company branding, business branding, versus personal branding. The difference is that now we're talking about you, me. So instead of the company's mission, it's my mission, my vision. Why do I want to do what I do? Why do I want this career? Why am I working my tail off? And to be honest, if we don't know the why behind it, that's where we start to have a lack of emotional connection. We really start to feel icky about our day to day, right? Because, and that's what's happened. That's what's happened over the last several years, is that many people have been like, I don't feel connected into what I'm doing, but I'm doing it to make the money because of the health benefits. And so really what's happening is a real personal branding challenge and conversation, because we start with that why, right? Why are you here? What are you really good at? What are your skills? What can you offer? Right? What are you passionate about? What makes you feel purposeful? That is the essence of personal branding, it's ultimately, it's you, it's your story, it's your legacy, it's everything that is behind you as a human being and how you bring that to market for people to love and understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is interesting to me. I Whenever I think about my why, I think that I know my why, but and I think a lot of people, like, if you ask them, okay, well, what is your why? They kind of know it, but do you, like, remind yourself of your why daily, or do you do something so that you just, like, have that top of mind all the time?
Such a It's such a good question. I do try my best. Now, for me, my why, the way in which I remind myself is making sure that I stay present and connected every day. So that can happen in a multitude of ways, whether that's working out and listening to music. I have a whole, altar and meditation space over here. I have oracle cards, going out in nature, walking my dog, right? Time away from the screen. All of these ways allow me to ground and be present.
Mm-hmm.
And in those moments, I'm allowed to reconnect into who Rachel really is. And that helps me come back to my purpose and my why. And, for me, having moments like this to talk to another beautiful soul like yourself, being on podcasts, being with our community, seeing the messages and comments and the human connection and relationships and conversations that I'm creating every day, they really light me up. That helps affirm for me, okay, Rachel, yes, you do need to share your voice. Yes, Rachel, you have a purpose and you must keep going. So my value proposition, my personal brand statement is that I am a fearless brand marketing lady boss who helps people and businesses build their personal brand, find their voice, grow their influence, and change the world. And so I could say that, I can recite that to you, right? Not everyone can do that. That's what building a personal brand is about. That's what we teach, right? At Standout Authority. That's what we help people identify for themselves. So it makes it a lot easier to keep going, to say yes to some things and no to other things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this a little while ago because I had met a couple of really great entrepreneurs and I had learned their stories and I realized how up and down it was. And that's pretty much the whole entrepreneur story. Like, there's not really stability, there are a lot of factors that you have to consider, and sometimes you do better and sometimes you don't do better. And one thing that I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs is that, like, their company is a part of themselves. Like, whenever their company is doing poorly, they feel the weight of that as well. Um, and I was thinking about one of the entrepreneurs that I know, and it finally hit me that the reason why entrepreneurship is so worth it to those people is because of the individual connection. Like you said, like, he has changed many people's lives individually. Like, they can tell him, you specifically changed my life. And whenever you work for a company, it's not that easy. Like, you can't say, oh, you specifically changed my life. And I think that that's very interesting. And of course, different people need different things, but it's definitely helpful to root your why in that present moment of individual people having their lives changed. So I think that's really, really fascinating that you said that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to be an entrepreneur, you have a bit of an ego inherently, right? And so you have a bigger mission, or else you'd work for somebody else, right? And hopefully that ego is based off of exactly what you're saying. If I could change one life a day, if I can make one impact, if I can make one person smile, if I can shift a mindset, if I can, if I can feed one more person, right? Whatever that mission is, then I feel good about my time on this planet. And it's an ambitious and big heart-centered thought to want to do that. And you're right. Working for somebody else, other companies, you can feel that. There's a lot of like healthcare, right? You think about a lot of people that literally can feel and touch the way in which they're affecting lives every day, right? Or there are veterans or people in the army, right, protecting us. And so that is similar to the entrepreneurial spirit, right? It's all similar, except we are creating a business around it. So you have to, in many ways, be even more gritty. You need to have, we get to have an unconditional love for ourselves and the work that we're trying to bring to the planet.
Mm-hmm. I really, really appreciate how much you love your work. Are there ever days whenever you get up and you don't want to do your work? And what do you do then?
Oh gosh. Well, since we're going to be honest, right? Because you said to me, are you an open book? I'm like, yeah, I'm an open book. There's a lot of days that am like, because we're a small business and it's not like the business gets done without me. I want a business, I want to grow a business that where I can speak and do my big strengths workshop, like really lead and communicate and present as my primary thing that I do. But right now, there's very much of being in the nitty gritty of running an agency and a community, right? And I mean nitty gritty. That means copy, writing copy, reading copy, approving copy, talking to clients. I mean, all of it, like all the little pieces, right? And the project management, the getting on calls, like all of those things. And some I like more than others, right? For me, for instance, this is an important piece, I think, of being an entrepreneur that I'm learning. Really, really knowing what your energy drivers are and detractors. And when you work for somebody else, like you could work 5 hours in a day and you could work 15 and you're still going to get paid the same amount. Like, especially inside corporate secret, like there's a lot of people getting paid a lot of money and they ain't doing that much, right? There's like a point of diminishing returns when you work for somebody else, because somebody else is paying the bill and you want to do great work for them and you will. And there's like a threshold, right? Where it's like, this is still not my business. Like, this isn't my business ultimately. So like, F it. It's not the same when you are your business, like you said, right? Like what you put in is what you get out. To create it, I must be it. I must see it and be it and create it. I can't just have an idea and like it will get nowhere unless I make it happen. If it's to be, it's up to me. Truly, 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 truly. So there's a great excitement about that. And it's an energy driver, but it also can be very exhausting. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
It can detract from you because you're like, okay, whoa, I can create all this stuff, but like, where do I put my energy? And you have to get really, really clear on that piece and outsource and have people help you when you realize that so much of your energy is going to working in the business, not on the business. And when you're doing tasks that are taking away a lot of energy. So for me, I'm a good communicator across multiple. When I say communicating, I mean public speaking, I mean making presentations, writing, creating copy, social, all that. I'm really good at it. However, I am not a copywriter, right? So like reading and writing copy all day, drain, major drain.
I
It's a
understand.
major drain, right? But it's a really important piece to our business because we do a lot of content on behalf of ourselves and for our clients. So we're like content machines over here on multiple levels. So I'm realizing about myself, like, holy shit, like I get like capped. Like when I start to look at my Monday board and I see all this stuff and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like procrastinating on it. It's an energy detractor. I need to find ways to like have more support with this, because how am I gonna, you asked me about waking up in the morning. It's like, if I have a whole day of copy ahead, I'm gonna be like, like, no, like that's not going to be sustainable. So that's okay. Like that's a big piece of also kind of becoming a business owner, and completely, it's a totally different mindset, because you have to be really smart with your energy and where it goes, because we all have so much. Resources are only so big. And so that is a piece of, to make sure that I can get up in the morning and feel good and to keep that energy thriving, really looking at my schedule and carving things out and getting support so that I don't burn myself out in tasks that ultimately are just not going to help the business move forward enough.
So it's kind of like recognizing the ultimate job to be done as somebody who's, overseeing the whole company, and then recognizing, number one, where your skills fit in, and number two, where other people can fit in better than you, and then also hedging against yourself. So like I think about it like that, because there's some times that I don't like writing copy, for example. Like you said, I can write copy well, but if I have to do it the whole day, it is completely an energy drain. So then it's just like, okay, how can I hedge against the fatigue that I know is going to set in at this specific time, and just recognizing patterns. I think that's really, really brilliant, and definitely.
Yeah. And if copywriting, let's say, for most people, it should be a pretty important piece of our business, because content is such an important piece of any business. I don't care what you do. If you want to do marketing, you're doing content. If that's not something that's your strength, this is why part of building a personal brand is identifying your skills. Really understanding your skills like that and what your strengths are is so critical. And finding other people, services, whatever the case is, to help in the areas that you're less strong in. And if there isn't budget for that, I need to make enough money so that I can cover on the copywriting, which will ultimately save me time so I can get more business, right? Like that is such a big piece of what I've learned and continue to learn, is the more that I can be in my strengths and focusing on that, the more that the business will actually push forward. And it's like you're walking the edge all day when you're building a business, because you kind of have to do it all.
One of the other interesting things to me is, so you're building a branding business. It's a lot of content, like you said. That's a lot of creation. How do you balance creating and then also receiving? So like you have to have input and then neutral, where like you're not doing anything or you're just resting, as well as creation, because you can't always be on. How do you make sure to balance that?
For me personally, like in my own energy as a content creator,
Yes.
asking, yeah. I think I get 8 hours of sleep a night. Like I don't like, you know what I mean? I'm in bed usually at 9 and I'll read. Like I don't watch TV in bed. We stopped at like no TV in bed. I don't watch any news or anything like that to wake up. I get up, I have tea. I usually meditate and I work out, walk the dog. Like my mornings are pretty sacred, right? Of course, when we have to like bring kids to school, right? There might be some other elements in there, but I have a therapist. I'm very open about that. I've had coaches. Uh, I am not ashamed of at all of saying I'm burned out. I'm burned out. I'm burned out. I need space. I need time. I'm really, I've been going through my own personal fertility journey. My husband has a few things with, blood clot. Like there's personal, right? All of us have like personal and health things. All of us have experienced that with the pandemic. All of us have had our own sort of mental health and well-being up and downs over the last few years, and we're all just now more open about it. And so I just think it's one thing that because I have a tendency, like I will burn myself out. Like I'll like keep going. You know what I mean? It's like just like one more page of copy, right? Or like one more thing to do, but like I'm feeling it in my eyes. My head is hurting. Like my body is signaling to me. And previously I'll just fight through it, right? Now I'm trying to say, no, like my head is hurting and my eyes are hurting. Rachel, go lay down for 20 minutes, right? That's taken 34 years and I'm still not really good at it. By the way, I'm like not good at it. But what happens is that when I can feel that feeling, right? Like, when you're in flow,
Yes.
you're like,
yes.
yeah, you're like at the computer and it's like, man, like life is good. Like email done, this, woo, knock that out. And you're just like flowing. It's the best feeling. And you just like get shit done. When I'm super tired and I can feel that, like nothing gets done as fast or effective. Nothing. And it's so hard to like realize that. But I think it's really powerful when we can that's part of the work to be done. Every single person is to really start having greater awareness around our bodies, our minds, and give ourselves space multiple times throughout the day. Like usually, like this time, usually around the day, like 2-3 o'clock is usually a down for me. And then I pick it back, like I'll get like a little swing later on. And so a lot of times at this time of day, I go on a walk with Frank, my dog. He's around here somewhere. So like whatever it is for you, people really get to pay attention to that and do whatever you need to do.
I love that. Okay, so I don't think we're going to touch on Web3 because I would rather talk about personal branding. I think that is your forte, that is your passion, and it's also something that I think is immensely important.
Yeah.
A long time ago, the only things that used to be branded were companies. Like companies had brands, and unbeknownst to all of us, we also had a brand. But now personal branding is becoming more and more important. First, why do you think that is?
There's a lot of reasons. I think that the last few years of the pandemic and everybody working from home, and that is a big shift, has been the accelerator to really have people say like, wait a minute, I'm home now, not running to the gym, picking up the kids, doing this, like going. I'm home. I got the kids. Do I like this job? Like, wait a minute. I don't even want to go back into the office, right? Like, wait a minute. I don't really like these people, right? Or like, I have a little bit of extra time because I just saved my 2 hours from my commute. And I really want to be a part of this, women's networking group, right? Like, all of this sort of happened, and the pause really has been so beneficial for employees in particular, to reevaluate their life, their career, and what they want out of it. And what's happened, there's a lot of data behind this, is that when employees at big companies have been surveyed, the number one thing that they're feeling with their companies is a lack of emotional connection.
Interesting.
One, beyond good pay, the next thing, the recent Deloitte part that people want in their companies, mental health, well-being. They want to be connected to their company. So, in the past, it was like, I have a good job. I do what my boss says, right? Like, there wasn't other paths. And virtual hybrid workplace, virtual remote working has really, I think, been the catalyst for you and people to say, I have the power to choose now. When I was working at Microsoft, I negotiated with my specific GM and department to let me work remotely to pursue a relationship with my now husband. I had to put a case basically together, and it was really because I was such a high performer and they trusted me that they allowed me to live in Austin and work remotely. That was back in 2017. It was very unheard of at the time. And it also really restricted my career.
Interesting.
Fast forward now, everybody's remote at Microsoft, right? And I think it's just been like these shifts have really empowered people to take ownership of their career and of what they want, and to actually go back to the companies and say, I don't want that, right? And that is at the epicenter of personal branding, because personal branding is ultimately how others see you and how you see yourself. And how I see myself is the most important piece of personal branding, but everyone's so worried about how other people see us and the perceptions and reputation that they get caught up, right, in this amazing job. Like I had an amazing job, amazing. But I decided I saw myself, my future, my vision a little differently. And so that is what personal branding is about. It is about you understanding what exactly you're here to create. What skills do you have? What is your differentiation? Who is your audience? Who can you speak to and relate to? And what are you passionate about? Those are my 4 key steps to building a personal brand. I just put a newsletter out and talked about that. And I do that in workshops and in our community, our Web3 community. Those are the pieces that help us identify our personal brand and what we're trying to give and create in this world.
I love that. So it's skills / superpower, audience, differentiation, and which other one?
Your passion.
Passion. Okay.
Yeah. And that is where there's so much of this disconnect, right? And why personal branding is starting to become like, what? This personal branding? I have a brand? What? You know what I mean? Because people haven't really been thinking about, like, what am I passionate about? Why am I doing this? But they're really starting to think about it now because there's a lot of shit going on. And that passion is what's helped fueling people to take a step back and realize that their voice matters, their careers matter, that they can create. They get to create whatever they want out of their lives.
So personal brand is like this is how I see it. So correct me wherever you think it's not correct. Personal brand is like level 2 resume. It's like resumes we're trying to get to know you. That's the point of it, okay? And we filtered it down to a certain set of criteria. But now personal brand is semi-defined by you. Like, what do you like? How are you going to show up?
It's all defined by you.
Other than the platforms. Like, you do have to kind of like tweak for the platforms. But yeah, it is.
So your resume, here's how I like to think about a personal brand. So the way that I think about personal branding and the way I teach it and build it is in the same way in which you build a value proposition and a brand for a business. Okay. So when you are thinking about the brand Nike, just do it, right? Their I don't know exactly their mission, but I'm sure it's around pretty much empowering people, right, through their athletic nature, their bodies, right, to look good, to feel energized, right? That statement, how they do it, when you think about a value proposition, your value proposition is defining who, to who, who's your audience, what do you do, what are the features and benefits, what exactly are you providing, right? What is your competitive differentiation, right? Why? Like, that's how you build a value proposition. Literally. Here's what Nike, we empower people, you know, through their bodies and their and athletic whatever nature. We do that by providing shoes, by having an application, aka Nike Running app. We do that by our gear. We do that by our brand partnerships. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Yeah.
Your resume. So when you're building your personal brand, your resume is like your features and benefits. It's like the things, it's like describing you, the product, what you do, right? So it's a piece of it, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Because there's more. That's right. Because there's more to you than, well, tell me one thing on your resume.
I did a volunteer thing at a hospital because I wanted to be a doctor a long, long time ago.
It's evidence.
Yeah.
Right? It's evidence of your skills and experiences. So it is, which is super important when we're building a personal brand. If you're going to say like I say, I'm a fearless, I'm a badass brand marketer. I'm a branding lady boss. I am branding myself. I am claiming that. I cannot say that without evidence of my experiences and my skill set. So I can say that because I did a multi-year brand repositioning project for the Microsoft Partner Network, multi-million-dollar qualitative and quantitative research. I built a brand identity for software advice. Like I have, and that's all on my resume. But I'm more than just that, right? I'm more than just that. And so often when we introduce ourselves, or when we look at LinkedIn, which most people just put a resume up, is that they're not telling the why. Why do you care about this? Which is where the passion comes into play, right? The why, the impact. And that's really where like a mission, same with a company, they have their mission. Usually it's about, support, let's say, healthcare, right? You want to usually save lives,
Yes.
Cure cancer, right? So there's no more cancer patients or something like that, right? Like there's a why behind all of the things that we do. And so that's usually the missing piece for people. Usually when I workshop and talk to people and go through the personal branding, it's hard to conceptualize because they don't value themselves. They don't really know what they're good at, their superpowers. So they struggle with identifying their skills, and they struggle to really identify that why. Like, why am I doing all this? What's the real story behind it? But when you do that, that when you, and you will, and every person's capable, person has it. I love the aha moments when I'm working with people, because it's like, and then it starts to make sense as you think about, my LinkedIn profile, like those are just vehicles. Writing a social media post is just a vehicle for you to express your vision. It's not it. It's just an expression of it. It's a marketing tactic.
I like the way of looking at it as a vehicle, or like a package almost. Like that is the package. You just have to fit it inside.
Yeah. Again, I'm a total marketer, right? I think about this. I have traditional marketing experience. I have a lot of marketing experience. So I think of personal branding very much as if I'm a business brand. Like I think of myself as Microsoft, or I think of myself as, Nike or whatever, right? So I'm marketing, instead of marketing my shoe, I'm marketing Rachel. and she needs to go to market, just like Nike needs to go to market and sell that shoe. I sell myself by the content I produce on LinkedIn, by being on podcasts, right? By having a website, going on Instagram, being at conferences. Like, all of these pieces are vehicles for me to share my message and my voice and hopefully create opportunity through it and serve.
I love that. I have one question before we get into the final rapid fire, just like very, very short questions.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that a lot of the problems that people have whenever you workshop is that they don't value themselves. How do they work through that? Like, what are the steps that you usually give them to help themselves to value themselves more, to really understand that they are valuable?
Well, listen, girl, I don't have all the answers for that, because quite frankly, some of that is therapy, some of that is coaching, some of that, is doing the inner work. And I will never, claim to be at that complete stage, right? I'm not a total expert. However, from my experience and working with many people, I think it's my job to show them, give them permission to see the light that they cannot see in themselves. And the truth is that every single person's worthy. Every single person is good enough. Every person has the capability of making multi-million dollars, right? That's why we see all these stories. What's getting in the way? Literally, we did a room with John Azaroff yesterday, who has NeuroGym, and he does so much stuff on neuroscience. Our own limiting beliefs, the traumas that we've experienced, the stories we've been told since we were a kid, right? All of those pieces, when you got rejected from that job or somebody was mean to you at work, right? All of those things, we start to own them. We own those experiences. And then they start to really affect our worth. And so when I ask you, what are your superpowers? You're like, I have none. It's like, bullshit. You're sitting here on a podcast right now with me interviewing. You don't call that a superpower? Like, you know what I mean? So I have to say, like, I have to show it to them, because we don't see it ourselves. And that's why this is not a job to be done alone. It's just not. Nothing in life is really a job to be done alone. Like, we're innately human and connected, and we're one energy force. I mean, we really are. And so when you're thinking about building your personal brand or taking the step into entrepreneurship or switching a job, right? Like, get a mentor, reach out to me, be a part of our community. Our community, super low cost. We provide a ton of support to people, right? Therapy, counselors, coaches. I don't give a shit what you decide to do, whatever books you read, like, just don't do it alone, because we're really hard on ourselves and we have so much programming that it's hard for us to get past. So that's all I can really say on that, is you need to do the work. You need to do the work. And guess what? You're going to feel it your whole life. Like, guess what? I have imposter syndrome still. Like, there are things I will go into a room, or I want to be a lecturer at some universities and stuff. And I'm like, I do the same thing still, even with everything. I'll be like, I don't know if I'll get this. I'm having a total imposter moment. Like, it's totally okay. And you still go for it. Like, you keep going, you give it a try. That is the distinction between leadership, right? Being a leader, being a creator, being an entrepreneur. The distinction is not capability or skill set. It's passion and motivation to make it happen.
Wow. That was a mic drop. That's the perfect note to go into our rapid fire questions. The first question, we'll do this very quickly since I do know that you have to go, is what do you value in life?
I value family. I value freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of my body, freedom of my life. My family is super important. And, I value purpose. I think purpose driven.
I love that. The second question, what is a good life?
A good life is subjective.
To you, though.
To me, a good life, I have food on the table. I have healthy body. Health is, huge. I'm able to pay the bills. I'm able to have a roof over my head, go on trips. Like, it's not extravagance. It's just being able to do the things I love, spending time with family, creating, and giving back, right? And feeling purposeful in my day-to-day job. For me, that's a good life.
Perfect. And lastly, if you could only leave one piece of advice for the world and generations that come after you, what would you say?
You are worthy. You are worthy. Your voice matters. If not you, who?
That's beautiful. That's perfect. Thank you very, very much for coming onto the podcast. I really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope that you found this episode enriching. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you would like to write a rating or a review, that would be fantastic. You can also follow me at Untitled Podcast. I'm looking forward to our next episode. Cheers.
We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that.